Hello, brothers and sisters. As we're all contemplating what the next few weeks will look like in our cities and our church, we have to face the fact that we've been away from our old routines for 7 or 8 weeks, maybe 9 for some of you, which means we've been forming habits. The old 6 weeks to form a habit principle is actually on the long end for lots of people because we're just creatures of habit and we, by nature, form them. Unfortunately, one of the habits we've formed is not meeting together in person. Even though we've had the competing desire, it is a behavioral pattern, and it's just as easy to form this behavioral pattern as any other. And this factor is why God deemed it important to urge in Hebrews, and let us consider how to stir up one another to love and good works, not neglecting to meet together, as is the habit of some, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day drawing near. In the face of all kinds of trials, Christians have always encountered this potential behavioral pattern of not assembling. This is all the more complicated in situations like ours, where there are real, compelling reasons not to meet. So now, regardless of when a city's restrictions loosen or what guidelines are recommended, all of us must face the challenge of inertia and this new habit of not gathering with the visible body of Christ. And we can't be naive about it. The time to think about it is now. Habits are pre-rational, energy-saving, instinctual, and unless you address them with a new habit, they just rule. So wherever you live, at the point when health and community welfare are no longer the dominating, controlling concerns, we're going to have to make the argument for why meeting together is essential for a sustained life of faith. Many Christians will have forgotten. So let's remind ourselves that where the living stones are gathered, a spiritual temple is assembled, and God has promised to fill it. Now, a related issue to the habit of neglecting our meeting is shame. Throughout church history, believers who have faced times of persecution, war, natural disasters, and plague have frequently found they didn't perform like they imagined they would. When the time of pressure came, we usually romanticize our faith. We have a high view of how we'll perform. And unless we already had deep patterns of simple, everyday faithfulness, times of trial will reveal the gap between our high expectations of ourselves and the reality of our weakness, our frailty. So the proud youth fears death and sacrifices to the emperor. And the religiously zealous person, threatened with loss, ends up turning in her neighbor to the persecuting regime. The untried soldier runs when the battle begins. The result of these situations is shame. Now, in our own trial, most of us haven't been as faithful as we expected or hoped. And although nobody else knows it, we may feel shame. Now, as we look at the prospect of joining back with other Christians, we feel our failings. We feel exposed. We may feel fake or like a hypocrite. One response is to see everyone else through the lens and imagine there's no such thing as real faith. If mine was false, everyone else's is false. Another response, which is probably more common, is to count yourself unworthy. In both these cases, we have to return to the gospel. Now, as always, in the course of justice, none of us would see salvation. None of us. Rather, we know it's by grace that we have been saved through faith, not because of worthy performance, but as a gift from God. And in this state, in this condition, we are all equal all the time. None have walked this trial perfectly. So all of us find ourselves exposed again, maybe more intensely, to the need for mercy. We have to be speaking the gospel. Grace has been given, mercy has been given, and let's hold fast to it. So God's grace be with you all.